All right. So, I wanted to just talk through the symposium, which is why I have this pretty slide up here. So to start with, both of you guys are going to be here, which is pretty awesome.
Where?
I can't wait.
Jordan always has maximum enthusiasm, which I appreciate. I couldn't get Jordan to speak this year. He is just too good for us. But
too much red tape, apparently.
Yeah,
that's why Roman had to slide in and do it.
Yeah, it's good to have you as a hype man anyway. Oh, Jenry's here.
Absolutely.
Jenry.
Wow, this is awesome. These are like some of my favorite people. That's the cool thing about the symposium is I just get to hang out with some of my favorite people. So, 19th through 21st, same place as always. Some key differences, which we will discuss, which I think are all good. But one thing that I want to mention right off the top is that it's presented by like our title sponsors. We got 2 title sponsors this year, and it's MeasureQuick and ACA. Like, who would have ever thought that ACA would be on board with my stupid little symposium? It's pretty cool. I'm waiting for commentary.
It's my.
Yeah. Ed is probably the one who pulled that off. Yeah, I'll give him credit for that. Although I'm sure there was a lot behind the scenes that made that happen. So big thanks to those guys. Big thanks to Jim and all that. Now, what do you know about? I'm going to ask you about this, Eric, while we have this slide up, or Jenry probably as well. Jordan, this probably isn't so much in your wheelhouse, but the quality installation standards from ACA, because that's a big push, and that's something that Jim is kind of involved in. So, do you guys know anything about that?
Eric?
Go ahead, Jenry.
I spoke to some guys about that. There were some discussions about it and how to, like make it kind of like push the standard a little further, if you will. The only contribution I could provide to that if you can get enough years of warranty coverage by doing something like that, then I don't see that would possibly work. But that was the last I heard of it. Outside of that, I don't know much about it. They were asking me about like the uses of MeasureQuick and how that would work, one thing with the other, and the other, opinion that I had on that was that as long as we were charged, accordingly, it would be I'd be in. Because, like, for example, I don't do MeasureQuick reports for free or included in the service call charge. That's part of a package that I can provide, right, for the client. So if they want to cover it through that, and I'm all in. What I did opine pretty strong against was to make it. And once and it's not still, you know what I'm saying? It's like a
I think.
So.
It's like most things. It's to the contractors that do something like this. There's value in doing it. So making sure that if you're providing that value, that you're also able to be compensated for that value that you're providing. I think that's big, but that's part of the mission. I mean, the long-term goal is to get more manufacturers involved, and I think even local municipalities, that kind of thing, where if you're following these certain steps, and especially if you're bringing in measurements right out of the tools, so you're saying, look, we've followed these steps, we've brought the measurements in right out of the Bluetooth tools, now we can confirm that we have a quality installation. I think it's pretty cool, and I think it's cool that a group like ACA, who really, I mean, let's be honest, a big part of what they do is lobbying government. I mean, that's a huge piece, and that may sound like kind of a bummer job, but it's a super important part of what they do for us, is that they are out there on the front lines, making sure that we're not getting screwed by legislation. And so as we move forward with a lot of forces that always want to kind of blindly foist things upon us as the trade, I think it's cool to think about, all right, well, we know that there is room for us to improve. Let's take ownership of that and get ahead of it, so that way we don't receive these mandates, because more and more people are becoming aware. Department of Energy talks all the time. I had some recent conversations just the other day with folks from the Department of Energy, where they talk about how we need to improve installations, because the actual installation quality has as much or more to do with the consumption of the grid as the actual type of equipment that's being selected. We know this and we talk about it all the time. I just think it's neat that ACA is not only doing this work themselves, but they're engaging folks like us at the symposium, Jim with Measure Quick, kind of our community. That's always, to me, a good first step. Now, to your point, Jenry, yeah, we got to figure out how to do it. And that's actually something that I'm going to talk about at the symposium. That's kind of my closing talk. I don't want to give away the lead here, but my closing talk is around this idea of making sure that we do put legs to ideas. We spend a lot of time thinking about in kind of this wonkish way as we get into higher levels of the trade. We're just solve big problems for the trade, but we do need to figure out how to put legs to it. And I think that's what you're saying, and you've always been really good at that.
And we have to put a more monetary incentive behind it that is compelling enough for consumers, you know, for their customers, for the end user, which is ultimately what drives the market, any market, to be incentivized to, you know, adopt, like embrace these things, right? And if you can extend the warranty coverage of a given piece of equipment, or even give some, you know, maybe chime in a little bit for, like, you know, labor warranties and things like that. If you make it cheaper or cost effective or cost intuitive for the end user, and then it has to work. There's got to be a way that can work.
All right, Eric, any thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's been a while since I've read through the QI standard, but I think that it's a great place for a lot of companies to shoot for. It kind of set I think when it came out, it set a really high bar for a lot of the people in the field. And I think even today, it's still a pretty high bar to hit that 100% across the board. But I agree with Jenry, and I like where he went with the warranty. And, you know, if I were a manufacturer, I think maybe that would be the key to an extended warranty. Like, you get a 1-year parts warranty, whatever, out the gate. And if you want an extended warranty, you prove somehow that you actually did that test on there, whether it be through Measure Quick or some other means that the manufacturer comes up with, however they want to do that. I think that would be a really great thing for the industry, honestly. It would push a lot of contractors way outside their comfort zone, in my opinion, and a lot of technicians too.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be, that would be a huge jump for a lot of people.
Yeah, and comfort is the enemy of growth. Like, we don't want to all be comfortable, but we also don't want thoughtless standards or thoughtless legislation that's just kind of thrown in our face. And I think we've all gotten burned by that so much. Again, back to kind of the positive thing here. I just think it's awesome. When I got the call that said, "Hey, ACA wants to be a title sponsor along with Measure Quick," and TEC is going to be right there, and we got Smart AC right next to them with the kind of some more of these connected kind of stationary instrumentation that can look at the performance of equipment. They're all going to be in booths right next to each other with a piece of equipment where you can actually get hands-on. I just think it's so neat to be part of that. And yeah, it's not going to be perfect, and sure, there'll be a lot we have to work through, but that's what we do at the symposium that I think is very unique and very different. Even this conversation, kind of the direction that Jenry took us in on this, it's really cool to be able to have the hard conversations that are, that typically people would feel threatened to have. So with that, I'm going to keep moving on. Otherwise, this is going to take for frickin' ever to do this. All right, so I'm going to talk about I'm going to go through our sponsors real quick, and you guys can feel free to chime in. Jenry, I've been muting you because we get a little feedback. So if you want to talk, just make sure to unmute yourself. So Measure Quick and ACA title sponsors, virtual live stream sponsor. It's huge. TrueTech stepped up to do that. Last year we didn't have one, which made it hard. We're going to talk about some huge differences in the live stream and some things moving forward that I'm really excited about. A lot of this is very detailed stuff. That maybe like this is boring, but it's stuff I'm excited about, so I'm going to go over it. But TrueTech, as always, Bill Spone and Eric and just that whole team, and now Eric Kaiser, you're working with these guys as well. Now they stepped up and made this virtual live stream not only possible, but allowed me to kind of move the ball forward a little bit in some of the things we're going to be able to do in the live stream and just make it a much better experience. As an example, we put in stationary stage lights in both the commercial and residential warehouses that we use for our classrooms. That alone is going to make the quality of the live stream a lot better because lighting was always a challenge. We put in all new LED lights in our warehouse, that kind of stuff. Again, it's silly little things, but that make a big difference. And TrueTech is the one who made that all possible, which is super, super generous of them. Bill has always been great. And as you know, use the offer code GetSchooled for a great discount at checkout. Food and beverage sponsor Smart AC. I'm excited about learning more about Smart AC because I really don't know much about them at all. I'll actually pause there. I like what they do because it's a stationary, basically leave behind that looks at system performance in a much simpler way, at least to my understanding. Do any of you have any experience with it or any thoughts about Smart AC?
I don't. I'm Googling it as we're talking so I can have something credible to say.
You've been waiting.
I've seen it. It almost kind of reminds me of like what Emerson tried to do with Senti Predict. But I don't know like really anything about it. I actually looked it up. Ed Jonawalk mentioned it to me as I was on a Zoom call with him this morning. And I looked it up and it was actually looking at it this morning. It seems like an interesting system. I'm not so sure about the sensors that stick in the middle of a register, but as long as that doesn't really impede the airflow patterns, I think it'll be all right.
Fortunately for us, I'm assuming they're going to have a ton of literature and somebody there to talk about it, Brian.
Oh yeah. They've got like I said, their booth is right next to. Literally, we put together all the people who are really going to benefit from live demos. And we added a new plug in one of our warehouses so that way we can plug in the heat pump or the furnace, and you'll be able to actually connect these things, use them with Measure Quick, use it with the TrueFlow grid. All that's going to be together. ACA is going to be right there, kind of talking about how the QI standards are going to apply with Measure Quick. So kind of that connecting all of those pieces together, you're going to get a chance to actually experience that. I think it's interesting to try to make it simpler and less expensive. I think that's been a huge barrier to sort of leave behind sensor technology, leave behind instrumentation, which is really what it is, connected instrumentation. And so I think it's interesting to see what they're doing. And of course, Jim's very excited about them. And that always gets me excited. As long as he's not insulting me, I'm always very excited about what Jim's excited about. But yeah, they're making the food and beverage possible, which is going to be the same three vendors that we had last year. So we have Chick-fil-A, the Lord's Chicken. We have some really great barbecue from Mission Barbecue, which I didn't know this, but they're actually a national chain. But man, they do it like they're local. They do all of our Christmas parties and all that. So
I had Mission's Barbecue catered for Sydney's graduation party this past summer. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, was it good? I'm hoping.
Absolutely. I go there pretty regularly for lunch. I shouldn't say regularly, but occasionally. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah, so they're my sister-in-law Shonda, who helps organize this and is sort of the money side of things. Everyone from my wife's family are the people who count the pennies. She was complaining because Mission Barbecue was a little bit more than some of the others, but I was like, no, we're going to them. And then we have kind of our Latin day, which is El Cerro, which is amazing. They always do a really great job with the Latin fare. I think it's Cuban. Jenry, do you know was that Cuban food? Was it Cuban? I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
I mean, it must have been because it was good.
Okay. Sounds right. All right. Gold sponsors. Yeah, the Energy Conservatory has always come up big. They're just huge partners with us. They always they make excellent stuff. And Steve Rogers and Chris and all those guys, Bill Graber, all those guys are amazing. Infocon, excited about Infocon because they do have some of the most interesting leak detection tools in the market today, and they've actually been very consistent. Diversitech, obviously, do a lot with those guys. We run their contractor advisory council, and it's always fun to talk to those guys. A new one, Parker Sporlin. It's been a long time. Actually, former sponsor, Sporlin. I think they were kind of waiting for Emerson to drop out, and then they swooped in, as they often do, and it's good to see them as part of it. We actually already have a bunch of the stuff that they sent down, and I think their booth is going to be pretty awesome. They have a lot of kind of hands-on stuff, which will be great. Refrigeration Technologies. Mike Pastorello is going to be down. John, unfortunately, can't make it this year, which is a super huge bummer, but they're probably my best long-term relationship that we've had in terms of somebody who really believed in us early, and I'm always really thankful for them. Santa Fe, as always, known as Ultra Air in the past. Nikki Kruger and I are actually going to be co-presenting on dehumidification. I'm doing our presentation that we did from the Humid Climate Conference, kind of sharing that with everybody. And then Retrotech is going to be here. Ben Walker is actually going to be down himself. So the CEO of Retrotech is going to be at our event, which is one really cool thing. A lot of times we get folks who you don't always see at the show or at booths at other events, kind of engaging, and not just here to speak, but here to just hang out with people, which is a really awesome thing. There's very few people who come in to speak and then leave. In fact, I don't really know of anybody who does that. They all come and stay and attend the sessions and all that, which make the sessions very full. And then silver sponsors, NAVAC and Field Peace, both great long-term relationships that we've had, and we're excited. Field Peace kind of squealed in at the last second, and so they'll be here with all their great products. All right. So, had to get that out of the way. All the basics. So one thing, one of the big questions that we always get, and I want to kind of ask you guys about this. I don't have any like formal relationship with NATE other than that I'm a proctor and a training provider. But what are you guys seeing as far as the NATE side of things? Our event provides 16 hours of NATE CEUs as long as you attend 16 hours of classes, which could be a combo of in-person and virtual if you'd like. Which is a quick note. Everybody who is in person is also going to receive a login for virtual, and we'll actually do that much quicker than we did before. You'll have that access right away. In the past, it was kind of cumbersome, which I'll explain why that was. But what are you guys thinking about NATE right now? What are you hearing on the street?
I mean, I'll have to refer to Jenry or Eric. Again, I might have to Google what NATE is. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm just not very involved in NATE. So
yeah, well, it's just what I hear, which is what I'm hearing more and more. What are your guys' thoughts?
I'm hearing it. It seems to be becoming less and less relevant in the industry, unless you are a carrier dealer. Basically, is what kind of the gist that I'm getting from it. I haven't seen the employers saying they've been getting a lot of value out of it to this point, but kind of is what it is at this right now.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing. Carrier dealers, that's a big deal, and there's some regions that where companies have tied, where it's become kind of common for companies to tie their pay scales, that sort of thing, to NATE. But in general, I'm not getting as much of it. The questions do come up, though, about how we're going to handle NATE CEUs, and we do it kind of the same way every time. We let you kind of go through the slate. We send out a survey, usually a week or so later, and in that survey, we ask for your NATE ID. You can kind of survey, give some feedback on the event or different sessions that you attended, and then at that point, we'll look at the stats and make sure that you've done what you're supposed to do, and then we'll provide you with, we'll submit that to NATE. So it usually takes about a couple weeks after to get all those. I don't even think CEU is the right term. I think they use some other term, but the continuing education requirements for NATE, which 16 hours is nice because it's the full amount that you need every 2 years, if I'm remembering correctly. One thing that's kind of a joke on this slide is 200 attendees. We have more than that this year because what kept happening was the people who have come for a long time, kind of the regulars, waited till the last minute to buy their ticket. I'm not going to name any names, but there might be someone on here whose name rhymes with Shorten Shummings who may have done that. And so what happened is, of course, we let everybody come. And, of course, people who have bought tickets, we had to let them come as well. So I said that really weird, like we had to let them come. But it's going to be challenging because I think the total attendee number with speakers and sponsors is going to be like 320 this year. Which is going to be really pushing it. So we're really trying to get our classrooms expanded a little bit, pack as many chairs as we can in, and definitely getting more toilets this year because that was definitely an issue last year, and we will not repeat that. Leilani demanded that we got one of those like fancy toilet trailers, where you actually have sinks you can wash your hands and all that. So we're going to have that in the front parking lot. I know it's these details are really important, but small changes. Not having feces overflowing into the main tent is handy. Go ahead, Eric.
Will there be hard hats offered in case there are drones flying over?
Oh yeah, in the past we've had drone wrecks. No, I don't think there'll be any drones this time. Although Keith Keller is coming, so you never quite know. He's a
Oh,
bit
that's
of a-
right. No, was that last? Yeah, that was last year, wasn't it? Or was that the
No,
first?
that was. I think that might have been the first one. Yeah, Keith got his drone and smashed it into a tree, and yeah,
Yeah.
yep, good
I
times.
just remember hearing a whirring and then a not whirring and then
Yeah.
a crash and everybody went, oh.
Yeah, that and the well. So here's the weird thing, and I know this is a gross conversation, but it's something I just have to mention. Okay, so what does it take in order to actually make a porta potty overflow? Okay, because we had one that overflowed, and the other two weren't even really that close. So that means that somebody, let me just think about what this means. This means that somebody has to walk up to this toilet that's completely full, and they're like, you know what? I'm just going to go anyway. I'm just going to keep going. I'm not going to go to the next one. I'm not going to go find something else. I'm not going to call anybody. I'm just going to keep going.
All right, I was really trying to steer the conversation.
So you're trying to
Michael.
steer it away? Yeah, okay. That's
Like
probably
into
wise. Yeah.
drones or something. But
Yeah, good. Yeah,
all
good
right,
point.
Brian, you want to keep going down this?
No, I do because it's just these are questions that have to be answered. I don't know. Like
I'm gonna throw it on all the guys there that walked in with the lid down and peed in the urinal and weren't looking to see how full it was.
there you go. No, that's actually makes sense. A little
Eric's
higher.
got the big brain. Yeah,
Yeah, it's true. Okay, yeah, there you
that
go.
makes sense.
It's answered. All right, thanks. All right. So everything is going to be at our website this year. This is a big difference. And I'm gonna show the tab here in a second, but everything is at hvacrschool.com. So if you go up to the top right, events, or you can type in hvacrschool.com/symposium. So this is for attendees in person. If you want to find out about the sessions, you can use it that way, or if you are accessing the virtual. And so it's all in an interactive calendar, basically just a clickable calendar, so that you can click into the sessions, and all of the pages are there. You just can't watch the videos unless you pay the $22 for the virtual, or if you're in person, then you also get the virtual. Another really good piece of news is that, and this is probably mentioned elsewhere, but we're going to be able to host the files for much longer. So you're going to get almost a year's worth of being able to view the sessions and to comment on them, all that kind of stuff, because we're hosting the files ourselves this year. So we got our own Vimeo account. We're hosting it on our own website. But all this kind of happened at the last minute because our AV company that we have used in the past and has hosted the site kind of at the last second said, oh, hey, by the way, we can't host the site this year. We're too busy. So we were like, oh, okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and bite the bullet and do it. And rather than hiring somebody outsourced, we just used our own team and built it all into HVAC School. Having said that, if you have noticed the experience over the last couple of days has not been the smoothest, as we've literally been, like I mentioned to Jordan earlier, we've literally been building, we jumped off a cliff and we built the plane before we hit the ground. So good news is that it's all seems to be working pretty well now. We're working out some styling issues and some mobile stuff that makes it, a little clunky, but we're working through all that. So by the time it goes live, we should have all the speaker bios, all the presentation descriptions, all the featured images that make it easy to share a session. Cool thing with this is that if there's a session you particularly liked, in the past there was no easy way to share that session, whereas now you'll be able to share it. And then people, when they open it up, they either, if they're signed in and they have paid the $22, they can watch it, or it'll just prompt them to do it. And then at that point, they get the entire set of training, which is a question a lot of people have. It's like $22 per class. No, it's $22 for the whole thing. The 16 NATE CEUs, all of it you get. And if you're in person, you get it all anyway. Any questions about that? Any thoughts? I was hoping someone would say something like, "Wow, Brian, that's an amazing value," or something like that.
I mean,
Nothing.
you think about it, that's pretty good. That's like what, $1.50 a CEU?
Yes, per CEU, it's very good. Yeah, if that's something you care about, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brian, I think it's phenomenal.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I mean, for
phenomenal
the
is a good word.
quality, let's see, this will be year number 4. Is this? Yeah, this is 4th.
Yep.
So, I mean, I was amazed the first time we came down. I knew you were going to have a lot of quality speakers, and like when I got there and I attended, and it was like even higher than my expectations were. It was, you just get a lot of really quality speakers going into a really small venue, so everything is really personable. Everybody sticks around. You can have face-to-face conversations with people, And I know you don't get that through the virtual ticket, but just to be able to get all of those varied people for $22 to watch them virtually from the comfort of your living room, man, that is insanely cheap for the especially for all the value you're getting out of it. It's
I just like, like there's so many people who just can't make it. Like they just can't. They want to so bad and they just can't. And to have them at least have some experience, to me, is really important. It's something that even from the beginning, the first year we did a terrible job, but we've hopefully been continuing to improve. Another improvement is that in the past, it's hard when you have a speaker and maybe they're saying something you don't like or something that that bothers you in some way, and you don't have a way to express it. You don't have a way to express it politely. You could do thumbs down. That's weird. You could do the middle finger. That would be really bad. And so what we did is we put these in all of the bags. So that way you can express with Angry Ed.
That's amazing. That really is phenomenal.
I would say Ed would be watching right now, but he told me he was going golfing today, so he doesn't even know. Does he even know this?
He knows that they exist. Yeah. So we recorded a podcast that just went out today or yesterday, and so he knows that these exist. But yeah, that's what that's for, though. It's if I make a joke, that doesn't land, it's not funny, whatever, that works. All right, so back to some of our specifics. So yeah, it starts on Thursday, and 7:30 a.m. Some people start rolling in at 7. That's great. Grab your coffee, grab your donut, hang out with people, start talking. One thing that I always encourage people to do is if you want to live stream, you want to interview people, you want to use our live stream studio. We're really improving that this year. Having a nice 3-person studio set up with live stream cameras. If you want to use that for your own channels or just for your whatever you want to do, feel free to do that. We have really solid internet now at the office. In the past, that was a bit of a challenge, but now that's been worked out. So that's something we always encourage. And then it goes all the way through Saturday. Saturday, it always kind of starts to wind down. A lot of people start to leave, but I will warn you as we go through. The final party is always a really good time. So and we've got another really great one this year. Let's see here. So quick thing, parking and shuttle route. This is a biggie and it sucks. And I'm sorry, we just don't have enough parking where we are. This is an area that we are going to improve in the future. I'm actually talking to Danielle about maybe last minute adding another shuttle so we can just shuttle people directly from their hotels and back. That's something I'm going to try to get done, but I can't promise it. It's a little more than walking distance. In the past, I told people they could walk it, and I've walked it, but, it's not like the best walk. So this is the parking lot right here. This is the famous Citrus Tower, so it's right down below the Citrus Tower, and that's where you need to park, and shuttle service will bring you to the event for those people who haven't been able to do that before. But I will say, and I don't know if any of you have experienced this, a lot of people have told me that the shuttle ride, the shuttle drivers specifically, in the past it was often my father-in-law, are some of the best ways of kicking off the event. So, take that with a grain of salt.
You got some good shuttle drivers there. Some of them are quite amusing.
Yeah, I don't know they're necessarily good drivers, so that might be a little scary. But now, one thing that I am a little concerned about with the number, which is one of the other reason why I want to do a shuttle service to the hotels, if you count spaces here, it's starting to kind of scare me a little bit. So there is, and this is, I would never say this on the internet for a lot of people to hear, but you could always park up by carrier too. And what are they going to do? Kick you out? It's carrier. Especially if you're a client. Like, what? Oh, really? You're going to tow me? So that's another option, and that definitely is walking distance. I definitely would never say that publicly, but just something to mention. All right, we don't have the
this private video. It's okay to say that.
Yeah, on this private video, just between friends, it's okay to mention it. All right, so I want to just quickly now shift over. We don't have the floor map done yet. Sorry. One of the things we are going to have this year, because in the past, the residential classroom, people would kind of always walk through it, and it was distracting. So we're blocking it off so people can't walk through. And our dispatch area, we're kind of making into our speaker sponsor lounge. because that's a cool thing that cool people do at conferences. It's not nearly enough space for that, but we're just doing it anyway for fun, which means that in order to go to our live stream area, which is our classroom, or into the bathrooms inside the building, you got to walk all the way around the ADA ramp. I know that's boring and probably a dumb thing to even mention, but that is going to be a change. But that's for the purpose of keeping it quiet in the classroom and being able to pack more seats in. So let's go here, and I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to share a different tab. This one
I got
here.
a suggestion, Brian. I mean, you could take down half of those shelves in that residential warehouse.
Well, yeah, so that was actually a discussion. Yeah,
You
that
don't
was
need that.
that was actually a discussion that we had. You will be impressed. Our warehousing space up top is much improved this year. We've made a lot of nice improvements. It's much more organized. So that's something I'm very proud of. And so don't criticize it. It's very important to me. All right. So here's what I want to show you. So when you're on the symposium page now, this is the interactive calendar, and we're still working out a few bugs. But when you click each session, it will open up, and it will give you we'll open Allison Bales here, but when you open it, it'll give you a description of the session, and then here you notice it's grayed out. You first have to sign into the website, because that way we need to know who you are, and then you can pay to watch the live broadcast. Once you pay, just a little credit card thing pops up, then it unlocks, and the screen where Vimeo can be watched pops up here. You can still, regardless, and this is another thing I'm kind of excited about this year, you can still leave comments, and I encourage people to do that even before the session starts. So if you have questions, Q&A type stuff, things you want to hear addressed, use the comments to do that and interact about it, because that's come up a lot. It's like, well, hey, I can't attend live, and maybe I won't even be there live with the virtual session, but I would like them to address my question. This is a great place to do that.
Nice.
Yeah, nice strategy. I think that's really neat, because especially from a speaker's perspective, to know what people kind of want to hear and to proactively kind of build that into your talk. That's a nice strategy. I like it.
Yeah, another thing worth mentioning there is that each video is still going to have a live chat too. So if you actually have a question about what's being said live, you can still interact live. We're going to have a moderator at each session who will make sure to try to ask those questions as long as there's time to do it. But then that's also replicated. This kind of sign-in process is also replicated down here with how you buy tickets. So before you were going to Eventbrite, the live event is sold out. I mean, we're still getting like 100 emails a day with people asking if they can still sign up. You cannot. The live event is the in-person event is not only sold out, it is oversold at this point. So we would love to have you. We would love to have you, but we cannot. I mean, we sold out the event 2 months ago. That was, we were sold out 2 months ago. But then as people canceled, even though we had a no refund policy, we just started giving them refunds and allowing new people to buy, which is also going to be a factor in how many people are there, because that's not something we really did in the past. So you just sign in to register. When you click here, it's going to basically say, all right, if you already have a password, sign in. If you think you might have one in the past, do the forgot password. If you don't have one, do that quick registration, which really is quick. We just need your name and email to make sure that we've got all that information, and also so we can contact you. And then it's got all the common FAQs and all that kind of stuff, which I don't even think I'm going to bother rushing through all of those. But the key thing here to note is that, and this is kind of what I was talking about, is that as we lead up to this, even the day of, you guys can take these links and share them on social media, and that will bring people directly to this page. And we're actually creating special promoted posts or featured posts for each one, images for each one. So that way when you share it, it will kind of like the image will make sense if you share it on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. And so if there's a session you're excited about, or maybe it's your session or somebody that is a friend of yours, you can share that, and then people can actually use that as a way to get in. Because in the past, sometimes people are like, well, I don't really know what I'm going to learn anyway, so I don't want to sign up for all these classes. I don't know what they are, but maybe there's one specific class that's sort of the entry drug to get them into the symposium, and I encourage everybody to do that. Any questions, comments about any of that?
You're encouraging everybody to try the entry drug. Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. Entry. What's something else I could go with that's a little less drug related? It's like the entry roller coaster at a theme park. So
it's like buying an entry level motorcycle.
Yeah, right. A scooter, or you start with a dirt bike when you're a kid.
Yeah.
It's like when you go into Busch Gardens, and the first roller coaster is Scorpion, which is a tiny little roller coaster. You got the kid who's like, oh, I'm so afraid. They do that one, and then they go to the next one, and they work their way up until they're riding Kumba or Montu, for example. We're going to stick with the Busch Gardens theme here. All right. So I want to quickly just kind of talk about, we'll just kind of wrap up with, because there's FAQs. You can find all of this by going to hvacrschool.com/symposium. That's a short link, or you can go to the site and just go here, click here. But I do want to talk about kind of some of the talks that are maybe you guys are most excited about. I think I know what Jordan's is going to be, so we'll start with Jordan. So Jordan, what talk is there in this in this symposium that most relates to what you do every day?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm excited for Roman and Steve to talk about VRF. As you know, that's a passion of mine. So I'm definitely excited to see those guys share all their experience and knowledge to everyone. Also excited for Allison Bales. The guy's like a freaking HVAC celebrity. So that's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, when you think about because obviously a lot of people are commercial, and it's like, well, does a lot of this stuff apply to commercial? A lot of it does. I mean, we've got, Allison's going to talk about ventilation, which applies to commercial. Now, he's not necessarily going to be talking about the commercial side of the ASHRAE standard, but it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Like the principles
Right.
still apply. And that's true of a lot of the things in here. I mean, thermal imaging is an example. I mean, that definitely applies to commercial. We're talking about different wireless technologies for troubleshooting. Soft skills always applies. Trevor Matthews is going to talk about the fundamentals and actually talk about the pressure enthalpy side of things, which is cool. And actually, we have back-to-back pressure enthalpy. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by pressure enthalpy, well, then hop on Trevor Matthews. Don't hop on Trevor Matthews. He's a strong guy, and he could probably carry you, but I don't recommend it. But go to his class and then follow that up with Eugene Silberstein, which, by the way, is another one that is super exciting to have. Eugene hasn't been to our event yet. He's a definite friend of mine personally in the podcast, and the primary author nowadays of the big RACT manual, the big blue manual that so many of us learned from in school. And Eugene always brings it in terms of the energy, for sure. But then there's lots of other things like talking, Jason and Don and Chuck talking about flammable refrigerants. That applies to all the different parts of the trade, so on and so forth. So you get the point. There's a lot of things. Jose is going to talk about M1, the M1 standard, which that definitely is a residential thing, but so many things that we should know about. All right, I just rambled a lot there. So Eric, what are some of yours that you're most excited about or most interested in?
I mean, there are so many classes in there. I was really interested to go see what Ed Jonawak had to say, but somebody scheduled me exactly opposite him in the class schedule. So I guess I'll have to watch that one online later.
Yeah.
But watching Ed in person is like watching poetry in motion. It's perfect.
I never would have thought about referring to Ed as poetry in motion, but I guess I can see that. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's just he's one of those presenters that the way he puts it is kind of like in your face and strange, but when he gets to the end, it all makes sense. And I really love that about watching him. As a presenter, I can learn so much from him, but the topics that he brings out are great. And Manual S just, of course, went through a big update here recently. And I think that's coming out shortly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what's also cool is Kimberly Llewellyn, who has not been to our event yet and now will be, was on the Manual S, one of the subcommittees associated with Manual S as well. So she was actually part of some of those changes that came down with that. So it's kind of cool. What else? Any others?
I mean, Eugene is always fun to watch. I really like watching David Richardson too.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything David brings out is a really great education. But you've got Craig Migliacci over there. Russ King's going to be in there. Just so many great speakers. Everybody, I don't see anybody on that list that I don't want to go watch. and they're way.
If you did, I would love for you to tell us.
Right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That guy, he stinks. Yeah. No, but like I actually went out this year and looked for some new speakers because we have the stable of like amazing teachers that we've had for so long. I mean, people like Alex Meany and Jim Foltz and John Ellis and Ed and Ty. I mean, Ty is always amazing. Always brings that energy. David and Jim and Bill and all those guys. But we actually went out and got some folks who I've known for a long time who haven't come before, like Jose. This is his first time. Dirk Nauman. Dirk is, I just noticed a typo there. Look at there. We spelled reading very strange there. Dirk is like brilliant on the commercial side. And he's talking about a very simple topic here about schematic reading, but just a great guy on sort of the applied system side and the control side and even programming. I mean, if you've seen HVAC Simulator, when I first saw it, I was like, man, this is pretty cool. I like what he's doing. And then I got to talking to him. He came by the office a month ago or whatever. And he programmed that all himself. Like he's doing all the 3D modeling and all the programming of that literally himself, which is just so cool. Like I don't have that in me to do all of that.
Yeah, and that's his part-time job.
Right. He's just doing that. He's just doing it on the side. I mean, he's just one of those people where I think there's a couple people like that. And actually, I put you in that category, Eric, where they're just kind of understated in a lot of ways. Don't self-promote, but then when you start digging in, it's like, holy crap! I mean, this guy's done so much and has so much to share too. Even his personal story, Dirk's personal story, which I'm sure he'll share a little bit, is absolutely incredible. I mean, unbelievably inspirational. Andy Holt is going to be at the event for the first time too, which is another one. Anyway, go ahead. You were going to say something.
I'm going to throw out a really big one that I think is we really haven't mentioned on here, and that's going to be Andy Osk and Ken Gehring.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with Ken Gehring from the HVAC Talk discussion boards, the forum boards there, he goes by Teddy Bear on there.
Yeah.
And anybody that wants to know anything about dehumidification, you ask Teddy Bear.
Yep.
And that, I think, is going to be a really phenomenal session. That one, I would say that's probably one of my top that I'm looking forward to on here. And followed up right there behind him, Rick Sims is another. Those three are really good on humidity control.
Yeah, these guys are all friends, Andy, Ken, and Rick. I'm actually going to be at their event, Andy and Rick's event, the following week, doing the talk that I did with Kimberly at Humid Climate and at Building Science Summer Camp. I don't know why they want me there because I feel like I'm totally outmoded. But these guys are just brilliant dudes who have really gained hard-won knowledge about the trade from experimentation and through just School of Hard Knocks. I mean, when you talk to Ken, he's just a lovely human, just a great guy. But you can tell, like he's one of these people who what he knows comes from actually having done it and having solved a million problems with humidity. And Andy's the same way because Andy also he wrote the book on it years ago and has come up through a very challenging market. That sort of Naples, Fort Myers market, which is you talk about high dew points. I mean, it's even higher than what we've got here in Orlando. So. Yeah, a lot of really great stuff is going to come out of that conversation, and they're old friends who also argue and fight about everything, which makes for a really fun kind of a discussion panel type thing. Let's see who else. There was one other one that I wanted to mention. Nick, and I never know how to or Nick or however you pronounce his name. I never know how to pronounce it, and he laughs at me every time. But he's with Ace and Flow Finder. Brilliant engineering mind, really somebody who's become a friend. It was funny because he's from the Netherlands and Leilani's family are from they're Dutch, so kind of Wisconsin Dutch, and so Leilani and him just hit it off. We got a chance.
Is there anybody that Leilani doesn't hit it off with?
No, that's kind of the point. She's kind of like you. That's why that's why we have coined the nickname Leorden, because you two are like identical in terms of your ability to make new friends. But Nick is just a special guy. It's somebody who I really encourage you all to just talk to, get into a conversation with, because his take on measurement is amazing, but also he's just one of these people who has a great philosophy on life. We've had some just sit down philosophical conversations about life, and comes from obviously across the world, so a very different life experience, but just a super smart guy. Has a lot to has a lot to offer. What else? What else we missing here?
Craig's inverter mini split operation. That guy seems to impress the heck out of me. So I'm excited to sit in on that one.
Yeah. Craig is great too, because he's another one of those people who literally, I mean, he has the biggest YouTube channel, the most watched YouTube channel in our space. I mean, by a good amount. The inside joke with Craig is that for some reason I never got my silver play button after I had 100,000 subscribers.
Right.
And so I told him that, and a lot of people don't know this story, but I told him that, and he was like, "Oh, you know, we were just making fun back and forth." And so 2 weeks later in the mail, I get this wooden, like horribly made, and you have to know Craig because he's actually a really good craftsman across the board. Like he's really good at you know, woodworking. He's just good at everything he does. But he sends me this plaque with a silver wooden button in it, and it's horrible. Like the miter edges are terrible, and like everything is just as awful as it could be. And it's like, you know, congratulations HVAC school. It was just hilarious. Like the amount of time because he probably took far more time trying to make it bad.
Right.
Because for him it's just so natural to do a good job, and it was the funniest thing I ever saw. So I never really publicly talked about that. I did one quick Facebook Live video that nobody probably understood, but it was just a hilarious inside joke. So we actually talked about that on the last podcast. Yeah. But just a great guy, salt of the earth guy. He's got a new book out, and he's just shipped us like a zillion of them. So you can actually purchase the book here, and he always gets the details right. He thinks about like what the pages are made of. They're spiral bound to make it easy to kind of open and field reference, and just does a great job with all that kind of stuff. All right, so we could talk about this all day. I always want to mention Alex Meany. He's always incredible. Like he's one of my favorite teachers to listen to. I could just listen to Alex or talk to him all day long. He's just such a lovely person. We did have one cancellation, which is sad. Joe Medosh had a death in his family. He just called me as I was driving into the office this morning, so he is not going to be able to attend, which is a huge gap in our event. Joe's cornerstone of what we've done, and one of the biggest promoters of the trade that I've ever met. So it's sad to see him leave, but it's something he's got to take care of, and we will see him. Those of you who are at AHR will get to see him there. So I did confirm that, and we hope to do a live podcast together there. I want to go back quickly to, I know you guys have already taken up almost an hour, which is absolutely absurd that you did this for me and this short notice. I want to go ahead and just switch back real quick to finalize a few things, give a few of my favorite recommendations. 1 second here. So we already talked about the virtual session, how to sign up, all that. We're going to share all this. We're actually making a much more thorough guide this year. We're also giving, and I'm kind of giving this away early, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but one of the pieces of feedback that Rachel gave me, Eric's lovely wife, was that, you know, we need to be a little more proactive in thanking the speakers, because a lot of the speakers that are, you know, going on their own dime to come down here, and I was like, that's absolutely true. So we've got some really cool gifts that we're going to give the speakers. So if you see speakers with some cool gifts, don't complain, because, you know, they did it on their own time. They came down on their own dime to do this. Just, you know, find something that you can speak about, and then, you know, submit to speak next year, so that way you can get some cool swag. Couple things I want to mention though. So after parties, this is one of the first times we've ever done this, a midweek after party. So or first day after party, sponsored by Refrigeration Technologies and Midwest Tool. I thought it was really cool that these guys came up. Midwest is a company that I've used their tools for years, but we've never had like a sponsorship relationship of any sort. But Mike Pastorello worked this out, and so Graffiti Junction, which coincidentally is right next to my favorite restaurant, Guru Indian Restaurant, which you can see here on the screen. Graffiti Junction is going to host us, and we're going to have drink tickets available, and then food for purchase if you like. But they're providing an ample number of drink tickets, so make sure to figure out who your designated driver is to get back to the hotel afterwards. But yeah, you don't want to stay up too late anyway, because we got early sessions the next day. But that's something that's new, and I'm super excited about. There's actually a ton of parking. Go ahead. What'd you say?
Does Uber have buses?
That's what we need. We need to get an Uber bus, or we should just like buy out a bunch of party buses and just have them take people wherever they want to go. That's for the future.
Come on, Brian.
Yeah, we'll do that. I would never do a thing like that. Next thing is the final meetup, which is the reason to stay for the whole thing. 5 to 8 p.m. Obviously, a lot of people aren't going to get there till a little after 5 because of when it ends. But we're going to be at Southern on the 8th, and we're going to have food and drinks and drink tickets. This is going to be kind of like what we did last year in Winter Garden. It's going to be a great time. It's right here, kind of in the center of Claremont, and that is the last day. That is Saturday, 1/21. And a couple other things to mention. There's plenty of parking here, and we'll put all this out so you have all this. But there's a couple other things that I want to mention. Some of my favorite local dinner recommendations. A lot of people have asked for this, and so I'm just giving it out now. It will also be in the guide. Thai Blossom and Winter Garden. If you have never been to kind of downtown Winter Garden, it's a really cool place. There's pizza. There's the Hangry Bison is another great place. But the Thai Blossom is Thai food in Leilani, and I love that. San Jose's in Claremont is a recommendation that we all give. Guru, I love Gurus. People who say they don't like Indian, I would just challenge you if you haven't tried good Indian. I would strongly suggest Guru. It's some of my favorite food. And then downtown Claremont has a lot of fun hangouts now. They've added a lot of things even since last year. Sun Creek Brewery in downtown Claremont. Roasted Spirit. This is a new one. It's very close to Sun Creek. It's right there, kind of by the waterfront on Lake Mineola. Great place for wine and mixed drinks. They usually have live music almost every night. It's open really late, so for those of you who want a place that stays open later, it's going to be open I think till 2 every midnight or 2. All those nights. Claremont traditionally is a pretty sleepy place, but we've got Roasted Spirit open late, and then Claremont Brewing Company is also just kind of a staple of Claremont. So we've got 3 nice hangout places, a couple good restaurants. Also Tiki Bar and Grill. That was another one that I failed to mention. For those of you who like that kind of beach vibe, it is right on Lake Mineola. You can actually sit out and watch the boats come in on the dock and have a beer. It's a kind of a more chill island type of vibe, and it's really only a few minutes from our shop. All right, I'm not going to go through the FAQs. I want to kind of end with you guys. Anything else that you think is worth mentioning about the symposium as we wrap up here?
Get your tickets early next year.
Yeah, that's good advice, I think, for me included.
Yeah. Yeah, very good point. Yeah. Now, there's something else I want to mention quickly, and so I'm looking for feedback on this. You guys can email me or message me if you have a strong opinion on this either way, and I'd like to hear you guys weigh in our last final minutes. ACA is asking me to move the event, or has asked me to consider moving the event next year in 2024 to March in order to match up with their event, because their event is in ACA and FRACA. So FRACA is Florida's kind of association, and then ACA is the national, are having a joint conference at Universal Studios, at a hotel at Universal Studios. And they're asking me to move it to be near that time. The only possible way that makes sense is if I get a different location, a place that's bigger, because otherwise I can't sell even close to the amount of tickets I want to sell to start with. I don't want to do that every year. So I've already decided I'm not going to do that every year. I like having it at Kalos. I like having a kind of homey feel. But I have considered maybe doing that and maybe doing the same thing in AHR years in Orlando, finding a bigger venue and kind of making it a little different and a little bigger in those years. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? First impressions.
I think part of the attraction for us that live up north, it sure is nice to get out of the northern climate during that February month, right? And not that March is that much different, but I definitely think that's part of the appeal is, hey, it's beginning of February and I'm going to get the heck out of the north and go hang out in Florida for a while. So, but I think that does, obviously it makes a ton of sense to align with these other big events because it gives you the opportunity to just draw that many more people.
Any opinions, Eric?
Yeah, I think, I like the idea of keeping it small because I think if it gets too big, it's going to lose a lot of the personality that attracts people to it. And I would hate to see it lose that. I can see making it larger occasionally, like you mentioned, where maybe if you line up with an ACA event or you line up with the AHR events there, maybe make it a little bit bigger, find a larger venue, something like that. I can see some challenges with that as well, especially when you're trying to do live demonstrations and things like that. You've got the facilities right there. You've got to a parking lot that we can splash water on if we want to wash out a piece of equipment or whatever else. It just, there's pluses and minuses to everything, but I think switching it up once in a while might be kind of interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I may do it. I don't think I probably am going to do it with ACA this year. I think it's just too short notice, and I think it might be tough. But I do like the idea. I mean, eventually, Kalos is going to end up on a bigger campus soon anyway. I have a vision for that Ty and I are talking about pretty actively. So that's something we can discuss. I would never discuss it in front of a bunch of people. I never do that sort of thing. So and that may solve a lot of the problems, but I think, but doing it alongside AHR makes a lot more sense because AHR is already kind of in that correct time slot. So AHR comes to Florida. I think it's going to continue to come to Florida every 4th year. So next year it's in Chicago. I think I'm right. I think next year it's in Chicago, and then it's back in Orlando. And so in those Orlando years, I think maybe that would be the year to have it be a bigger event. I would love to partner with ACA, especially since they've been so kind to me. I just think March might be a little too late because it can get pretty hot. So we would almost have to move venues, and then that changes everything, like you said. Unless we could get like a trade school or somebody to host us that already has equipment to work on, or maybe a little different vibe. I don't like the idea of doing the symposium at a hotel. That just doesn't. I like the idea of a hotel in a lot of ways, and like a hotel across the street would be great, but having it at a hotel ballroom just isn't the same feel. It's not really what I want.
Yeah, it's definitely not nearly as personable for technicians and whatnot to come to. I think they feel a lot more comfortable in the environment there at Kalos because it feels like home to them, right? It's a shop. There's pieces and parts sitting around in the warehouses that we can look at. We can pull filters off and mess your filters up in your filter organization. Sorry, I don't know anybody that would do that though.
Well, I mean, it doesn't get any worse than what Joe Shearer did, which was like trying to destroy my shop unit by putting a ball valve in and like overcharging the absolute HE double hockey sticks out of it, and then jacking it down to see. But I love that stuff. I love that we can do that, and I always encourage it. I don't even want people say this is a slippery slope, of course, but I don't even want people asking my permission. I just do it. Do fun things, and if you destroy something, just try not to destroy something really expensive. Like if it's like whatever. If it's winter, we can get it fixed by next time. That's what education is. Like we have to be. I want us to be a little childish in terms of our interests and our pursuits, where we're not afraid of being a little, I don't want to say unprofessional, because I push for professionalism in the trade, but curious and excited and excitable.
Brian, I won't.
Don't break the one for Danielle's office, because we all know who really runs the show here.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
I'll definitely bring plenty of childishness with me. You know that.
Yep.
But hey, I got to jump off here.
All right, good.
Roman's actually doing like a company-wide presentation that I should probably
attend. Yeah. No, and I already kept you guys for an hour, and I was planning like 10 minutes. So thank you guys. Cool. I look forward to seeing everybody at the symposium here very soon.
Cool.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.